We appear to be living in extraordinary times. At the age of 90, Captain Kirk has just returned from space on a phallic-shaped rocket. And Royal Enfield have decided to take this bike to the South Pole. So what is going on? Well, if you're watching this, you probably already know that Royal Enfield are the oldest motorcycle manufacturer in existence. Now, to celebrate their 120th birthday, they've decided to take the Royal Enfield Himalayan all the way to the South Pole. Now, they're calling this journey 90 degrees south. Shinji Kazama and Dean Coxon are expected to start this journey on the 26th of November. They're going to head to Novo and they're going to stay there for 3 days to acclimatise. Then they're going to head south for 12 days, and that's where the real journey begins, at the Ross Ice Shelf. Yeah, they're going to travel to the South Pole via the Leverett Glacier. Assuming that all goes well, the entire journey is expected to take around 39 days. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the South Pole, but that's big news. And it's big news because it's very hard. In fact, some might say impossible. And Royal Enfield, for some reason, don't think it's impossible. In fact, they've been preparing for this journey rather quietly for over a year now. They started phase 1 testing in September last year on a glacier in Iceland, and they did phase 2 testing this year in July. And now they're confident that both the bikes and the riders are prepared and ready to get to the South Pole. There's really no way to underestimate how big a feat of endurance this is for both man and machine. Naysayers will immediately say the bike is never going to make it, and they might actually have a point. But the question is, does it really matter? To some people it really doesn't matter that this bike was specifically designed and built to traverse the Himalayas. It's irrelevant that the bike has already crossed the desert in Kutch. They simply will not care that the bike has already been to Everest Base Camp. It matters not a jot that the Royal Enfield expedition team have already had the bike over the world's most inaccessible pass in Karakum. You see, this bike will always have its detractors. A few weeks ago I did a video where I fully loaded this bike up, strapped a GoPro in the front, and I took it up to 80 miles an hour whilst the bike was fully loaded. And somebody commented that I must have dropped the bike out of an aeroplane in order to get it to that speed. Now, this is not the first time that this has been done. Many years ago, a man called Shinji Kazama took a heavily modified TW200 to both the North and the South Poles. When I say heavily modified, I do really mean that. Every single component on the bike was changed. He spent over 14 million yen, and that's the equivalent of £200,000 in today's money. It was essentially one of the most expensive bikes ever built. Fairings had been added so that the fluids themselves didn't freeze in minus 50 degrees temperatures. He had fitted a ski to the front wheel. He freely admits that the only reason the bike actually made it is because he physically had to push it most of the way. Now, like the great Shinji Kazama, no one can take that journey away from him. But like the TW200, a Royal Enfield going to need to push this bike most of the way there? Or is it going to get there under its own steam? Well, only time will tell. A couple of years ago, BMW took a GS to the North Pole. They're certainly not considering going to the South Pole anytime in the next 120 years. I think the only thing that really matters is the fact that they're willing to try. Royal Enfield are willing to try to prove that the bike is capable. I think that says a lot. You see, the temperatures are such that at minus 50 degrees, fluids will freeze solid. Doesn't matter whether it's brake fluid, oils or fuel. Ah, I hear you say. Just like Shinji Kazama's TW200, the bike's going to be so heavily modified that it's barely even going to be recognisable as a Himalayan. I've been doing quite a bit of digging to find out just what type of modifications Royal Enfield are expected to do to this bike in order to get it to the South Pole. Thus far I've been a little bit surprised when I've looked at some of the video that they've been taking of the test phases in Iceland. It kind of almost looks like very little to nothing has been done to the bike. Now sure, they've certainly got rental handlebars on there, which are much wider, more stable. But what other modifications are they likely to do? Well, let's talk about that. Now, Royal Enfield say that they're going to replace the front sprocket. They're going to take out the 15-tooth sprocket and they're going to put in a 13-tooth sprocket in order to increase torque lower down in the rev range. They're going to install an alternator that's got rare earth magnets, and that's so that the riders can power their heated gear off the bike as they ride. The wheels are going to be wider. They're also going to be tubeless, and they're going to be studded for greater traction in the snow and ice. And then they're gonna, nope. If you look at any of the videos where Royal Enfield have been testing the bikes in Iceland, to my layman's eye, there looks like very little has actually been done to the bikes. I'm sure that there will be more, and I'm sure that Royal Enfield will release more of those details closer to the time. Will they make it? Is this bike going to get all the way to the South Pole? Well, I'm a little bit biased, and personally I believe they probably will make it. I genuinely think Captain Kirk did just return from space in a rocket. I don't think the Earth is flat, and I know that I can get this bike to 80 miles an hour if I have to. So it won't matter to you or I, it won't matter to all the naysayers out there. But whether it makes it or not is largely irrelevant, because after November of this year, the Royal Enfield Himalayan will always be that bike that's rode the Antarctic. And that's something to talk about.